Okay.
Okay, there's a recording.
All right. And then give me a minute to get my right view up here. 10% review. Okay. Got it. Move this over. Actually, that'll work. Okay. Let me share my screen. You know, after how long we've been doing this, I still goof this up sometimes. It's unbelievable. Okay.
Yeah, so good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'll let you introduce yourself, Bryanna, but for our students, Bryanna, we just got news yesterday that Bryanna was elected president of the Wisconsin HIM Association. So yeah. So I wasn't sure if you were going to toot your own horn, so I thought I would just share that with everybody before you got started.
Thank
So
you.
yeah. So whenever you're ready, you can share and get started.
All right. Let's test this out. Okay. Can you see my presentation? Yay. You guys see it? Okay, sorry. Now I can see all of you shaking your heads. Now I got it. Okay, so as she was saying, hi, I'm Bryanna. So I kind of have a long title. It's a mouthful. Basically, I'm a data abstractor, clinical data abstractor specialist, senior. I am at SSM Health, and we're actually across 4 different states. So Wisconsin, Illinois, Oklahoma, and Missouri. And I currently do the cath PCI registry for St. Anthony's in Oklahoma. So I've never met the providers before or my boss in person. But I want to point out I worked from home prior to the pandemic and loved it. And then I do the chest pain MI and PCI registry for St. Mary's in St. Louis, Missouri. And our department was recently renamed Healthcare Data Abstraction and Registry Services Department, so HDARS. And just as a kind of reminder, so PCI is when the docs go in and they place artery balloons and stents into your cardiac arteries to either prevent and or treat heart attack patients. And for the chest pain MI, it's strictly heart attack patients. We do our STEMI patients, not the non-STEMI patients where they've got ST elevation in their heart. And feel free to stop me at any time too, but I'll have a slide at the end for questions. So I feel like everyone's journey into the health information world is very unique, including my own. So I found out about HIM by a happy accident. I took some exploratory career classes here in Watertown, Wisconsin. And I didn't flip the slide. There we go. And then a career camp at Edgewood College in Madison. So actually, and I want to emphasize throughout the presentation, do not burn bridges. I say that because the woman that's the current national president of AHIMA, Jennifer Mueller, she actually introduced me into health information. She was doing this exploratory class in Watertown when she was still at that hospital. And I remember saying to her, I want your job. What do you do? I do nothing like what she does now, but so it kind of came full circle. So at that time when I was in college at St. Scholastica, we were doing 3 internships, and it was my 3-weeker I did at SSM Health here in St. Mary's Hospital in Madison. And and I already had my foot in the door for the internship. So what's funny is, again, the longer you stay in the HI world, the smaller the world gets, which actually I kind of like. I shadowed a woman twice. So I was under Lynn Olson at St. Mary's, interning under her at that time. And I shadowed twice with Sarah, a data analyst, and come to find out she actually had a hand in hiring me because she had met me a few times. So that was really cool. I had another internship at Marriott Business Center in Madison and then Aurora Medical Center in Summit, Wisconsin. I've run into some students that were planning to be, say, physical therapy, occupational therapy, and nursing college, and they decided to go into HIM instead. I knew I liked healthcare, but I didn't like the blood and guts. That's kind of how I ended up here. And so I started actually at data analytics at SSM Health. That was for 4 years. And then I wanted to try something new. I got into the cardiovascular registries, which is a little bit different than PCIs, what I currently do. And then I went to an HIM supervisor of document integrity at UW. Was there for about 2 years during the pandemic and post-pandemic. And that position was great, gave me a lot of knowledge, management in my back pocket, but it made me realize I miss abstraction. So I came back and am now doing the PCI registry. So what's interesting is that, and I know Ahima's trying to change this in the background too, is I have my RHIA and it was not required for my position, but it was recommended. I would still highly recommend, as soon as you're done with schooling, maybe you have or have not yet taken the exam, any kind of certificate, credential, whatever is going to push you ahead of the game. Make sure, there we go. So a little bit about responsibilities in the current abstractor role. It's a very, if you haven't already, yes, a very non-traditional role. A data analyst is non-traditional too, but I feel like it's becoming more popular. So we have bi-monthly NCDR meetings for each registry we do monthly team meetings with just our small work group. And then with our big department, we do that monthly. I meet with different stakeholders and cardiac docs, all virtual right now. I do quarterly submissions to NCDR. And NCDR, I always get this one up, stands for National Cardiovascular Data Registry. We submit all our data to them. And then, so yeah, we do quarterly submissions there. We compare it against other organizations. We run the dashboards. We look at things like mortalities, length of stay, medications, complications. So basically we're inputting a lot of manual data, some automated data from Epic, putting that and uploading it to NCDR, and from that comes outcome reports, and we can improve patient quality care and do things like decrease radiation, door to balloon time for STEMIs. So how quickly do we get them in the door into the cath lab to get a balloon or a stent placed? I work with different departments as needed. I help with Epic Smart Phrase to make to save docs time when they provide documentation. It kind of helps us. They have to do what's called appropriate use criteria, and that's just saying whether or not the patient truly needs some kind of a PCI. I report all the outliers. The providers, understandably so, can get a little feisty because you're basically, and I kind of learned this through time, it feels sometimes like you're telling them to do how to their job. Really, we just want to make them successful and meet the right criteria because, patients do look at publicly reported data to figure out where to go. So stuff like that is reported. I do other projects. We do peer audits within our group, make sure we're abstracting correctly. And then, so typical workday, I'm staring at the computer all day long. It's fully remote. I don't actually have a physical location to report to because our work is very much quality and production based. We don't have as many meetings as, say, a manager or a supervisor because our time is spent abstracting or we won't get anything done. I already mentioned we're across 4 different states. Most of my coworkers are in St. Louis and Missouri. There's a lot of repetitive data fields and whatnot to do, but there's also a good mixture of easy and hard data elements. Not everything is black and white, although I wish it was, but abstraction I think has more black and white than it used to. What I like though is our work environment's super flexible. We, we usually, work between 8 to 4:30 core hours, but again, it's productivity and quality driven. I love that I get to bring pieces together of a patient and have the entire picture of that patient from birth to their procedure and or possibly death from a procedure. And it's cool because you put all these little pieces and then you have this whole picture of a patient. I love that part. I really do. And then it feels good when that patient is completed and uploaded and nice and tidy. I like my crossing things off my list to do. And sometimes weird things come up. We're using what's called Cupid in Epic, and there's weird things going on. We have to figure out and dig into why. It can be a struggle because I see something different than Epic than someone else does, and trying to talk to programmers and figuring out the right verbiage to use. So definitely not boring. While some of the work is a little mundane, stuff like that keeps me going. In fact, I opened, I guess you could say, 2 cans of worms because I keep digging. You kind of have to keep digging to get to the root of the problem, which can be frustrating, but also really rewarding when you figure out, in fact, today was great already because we figured out an issue and kind of resolved it. So some of the challenges are, obtaining provider responses, of course, getting them to document Epic as an HIM. If it's not documented, it didn't happen. So I'm sure you guys know all about that being in school. Let's see. So, and then we have a lot of registry updates. CardioPulse is our third-party vendor. So we actually abstracting CardioPulse. I should have done like a diagram for this. CardioPulse. And then from CardioPulse, we export and submit it to NCDR, which then we get those reports back. But yeah, it's fast paced. They're always changing something. Sometimes that is a struggle, but it's also kind of rewarding. Okay. So these are just, I had this from another presentation, some skills that I'm sure apply to a lot of jobs out there. I won't read through all of them, but it is really helpful. What I do want to point out is I learned a lot of the clinical knowledge on the job, but the courses in college that helped me the most was anatomy and physiology for sure, and medications and things like that. So you do use what you learn in college, which is great. Okay, so the next one. I'm looking at two different screens here. Okay. So just some advice I would give. Again, it sounds like you guys have done some of your PPE experiences already. That really, again, I am proof of how I got my foot into the door with St. Mary's because of those internships. They're very valuable. Whether you want to volunteer and I'll talk a little bit more about WHEMA and MN HEMA later. Network, make connections, maybe find a mentor. I don't know if Minnesota HEMA has one. Yeah, they do. Okay. So things like that, that's been really helpful. I've been a mentor and a mentee. It's so invaluable. If you're not sure on what you want to do, go out and shadow a position. I know that can kind of be a struggle, but for me, it was a win because during an exploratory class, I figured out I did not want to be a pharmacist. It just wasn't for me, and I wanted to know if I wanted to go out there. Do something outside of your comfort zone. In a good way. Even if you don't think you like something, go ahead and shadow it, ask questions. Otherwise, you won't know. There was, yeah, okay, here we go. So I have been with WHEMA because again, I live in Wisconsin. It makes the most sense to be in our the CA in Wisconsin. But as you can see, the past 10 years, I've been heavily involved with WHEMA, not as much as AHEMA maybe in the future. But Jennifer, again, she introduced me to WHEMA as well. And I was so fortunate to find my niche. I'm addicted. I don't know how else to put it. I am addicted to the work that we do. So yeah, as they were saying, I'll be president-elect this upcoming term. I've done education director, planning conference teams, and NEMHEMA that you guys still do. That really got me interested in organizing conferences and all the stuff that comes together with that. It's just, I guess it's the least I can do when I volunteer. It feels good. It feels good. You're a part of something bigger than yourself. I'm fortunate enough to be able to volunteer. But as you can see, I've been on a couple of different teams. And I'm also proof of, so I definitely encourage you guys to go to conferences. I'm sure they have student discounts like we do here in Wisconsin. That's the cheapest time to typically go to a conference. But I used to volunteer in different organizations in high school during the summers to figure out what the heck is medical records and do I want to get into this. That also helped. But what's funny is those people I volunteered with then in high school, I now volunteer with now. So again, full circle. And I found job opportunities through attending a conference and organizing conferences and getting out there and networking. Not saying you have to go out and volunteer for planning a conference, but to kind of get your name and your face out there might open the door like it did for me for employment opportunities. I've heard that from other people too. Let's see. So I know that, so I graduated with Brandy, your current president. And so I know how to kind of navigate to Wisconsin, but let me see. This is the website, I believe, for Minnesota, and it really outlines very nicely what groups and committees you can get involved in. Maybe you already know this, but I definitely, and I can share this presentation too, go out there, and I think it's towards the top of the screen. You can look at each different committee. I bet you Brandy would be willing to tell you more about the different committees. And there's a ton of opportunities. It can be long-term commitment, short-term commitment. I know for our board, you can be up on the board for as long as 6 years. Don't let that scare you. You're never alone. I'm sure Minnesota too is super supportive, has your back. It's just been, I think that's one of the best decisions I made throughout all of this, was having the opportunity to volunteer and kind of expand your horizons. And guess what? It scared the crap out of me to go out, and I mean, I don't know what I like. Jennifer nudged me to, volunteer with WAHIMA. I'm going, I don't know what I am doing. No idea. Okay, let's try it. And I was hooked from day one. I was hooked. And that, again, it still kind of scares me. Wait, what do you mean? I'm president-elect. Good thing I have a bunch of people to, rely on. I don't have to know everything. But again, you just jump in and start swimming. Let's see if there's anything else. Yep, mentioned that. So yeah, if anything, I can kind of, so I had this again from another presentation. Here's my work situation. My treadmill's name in the background there is Steve. Got to make it fun. And then that's my dog Tyson. If you guys do ever, work from home, some things that people ask, well, what are some tips? Limit distractions, have green plants, make it your calm space. But I know that was a bunch of information all at once. But if there's anything, you can forget everything I said, except the one thing I want you to walk away with is get out there, shadow, intern, volunteer, network. I cannot say that enough. And yeah, it is scary, but you know what? Everyone's been in your shoes before, or I should say similar shoes before. But I've got up on the screen here contact information. If you ever want to chat, whatever, I'm here. If you call my phone, leave a voicemail because I'll think it's spam. But I did recently have, isn't the area code 218? I think I did recently have them like, wonder who that is. So I know I kind of went through that quickly, but now I want to pause here if there's any questions, or do I need to look at chat or?
Yeah, students, do you have some questions for Bryanna?
What were some of the things, like tasks that you did when you volunteered for like the state chapters? I just kind of want to know out there.
So for like WAHIMA, or when I bounced around and volunteered, or both?
I guess both.
Yeah, let's see if I can recall. So there was one I really didn't like, but but it gave me patience, and I think everyone needs to work in customer service at least once. It was basically, I'm gonna say this wrong, but basically calling people saying that they owe money for bills. I'm like, I don't know why I decided that was a good idea, but somehow I got looped into that. I've filed charts, made copies. This is, actually when a lot more of the records were paper. I would run records to and fro. So I said copying. It was very basic. Even just they would allow me to, even though I was volunteering, they'd let me sit with different people in the department to kind of shadow what they were doing. Okay, now I'm struggling. What else? Let's see. So I was in Aurora. It was a lot of computer work. I guess that's, yeah, kind of in a nutshell. Filing paperwork, talking to patients, making things were documented correctly, scanning. I felt like it was very basic, but it gave me a good taste for, okay, this is what patients do when they request a record. This is what they need. And it just gave me really good exposure. I know that's not a lot of detail, but here I'm struggling going, oh, that was a long time ago. So very basic things. And, I will say too, it was a bit of a hurdle to even volunteer, as you all probably know, with your PPE, to be able to look at PHI and really see the record, but it was worth jumping through hoops through, and I'm sure your professors do that too for you. Does that kind of answer your question? I mean, I kind of bounced all over the place. Let's see. So I'm trying to think if there was any.
How about for your state? Your state,
yeah,
your annual state convention? What do you have to?
Yeah.
What are some of the volunteer areas in Wisconsin?
Yeah. So we have different. So we've got the annual conference planning team and the fall conference planning team. I've been doing that for quite a while. That I think is the most fun. It's also the most work, I think. So being able to find the speakers, determine the menu, determine the venue, contact speakers, figuring out who's going to solicit donations for scholarships that go directly to the students and emerging professionals. I like the annual conference because it is so big and you can see everything come together, and it's beautiful when you're there at that conference and see it come together. I tried out a team that I knew I probably wasn't going to like, but I'm glad I did it because now I know. So I had done, I think it's called something else right now, legal resource manual team. We've got the policy, I think it's called PALE, policy advocacy legislative team. What else is out there? There's a ton. We have the spirit team that plans activities for the annual conference. We have different liaison roles, which are new within the last couple of years, which makes the conferences a little bit easier to navigate. So, for example, I was a speaker liaison. I basically was there ensuring the speakers had what they needed to be successful. We had an AV tech liaison, a vendor liaison, and it was nice to see all of that come together too. So we all have this list of responsibilities on what to do. They're all fun, but I'm biased. Let's see, we've got our nominating committee that puts people on the ballot. I did that once upon a time. And I'm just gonna bring up, let's see if I can, 1 second here. I'm not good at remembering it off the top of my head, but I think they're very similar to what Minnesota has too. For some reason, there we go.
What's been your favorite?
Yeah, definitely the annual conference team.
Mhm.
There's a lot of moving parts. Again, I'm still learning how to navigate that, but just all the different ways you can get involved. There's big opportunities, small opportunities. We also advertise for the conference too. There we go. This is what I wanted. We have a newish engagement team that plans different activities for WAHEMA to promote awareness, our strategic initiatives, creating e-alerts and interviewing members to get the word out there about WAHEMA. Then the fall conference team is on a smaller scale than the annual conference team, same kind of thing, planning the speakers, the menu, the venue, and all that. And we have our policy advocacy and legislative team that monitors and evaluates our federal and Wisconsin legislation that affects health information. Excuse me. Professional development team, they focus on they focus on funding for scholarships and working with vendors and different members to obtain financial support for scholarships. So that's huge. I have been on the spirit team before. That's really fun, especially for those creative minds. Again, like I was saying, that they plan the social activities for the conferences, which is really fun. And then the VIP team is responsible for putting out nominations for awards that are presented at the annual conference. So we've added a few: Rising Star, Motivator, Educator Award, Distinguished Member in Service. We just recently added a Student Award. So I actually really want to be on that team and someday and like call someone and say, hey, you got this award. And then we have some education director. I work closely with our workshops and webinars team. It's like a annual and fall conference planning, but smaller bite-sized pieces, I feel. And so we've been tasked with doing, like ROI workshops and different webinars based on survey feedback that we've had so that we can provide our membership and attendees with affordable education. So, and we're working on partnering with different associations. We did a joint webinar with HIMSS. Is that last year already? And WAHEMA is also partnering with a few different organizations for what's called the Mega Conference in January 2024. We're redoing that. We've never done it before, and as director, I thought, well, it's kind of a win-win situation. It expands our network of speakers and people that can, honestly, network together. That kind of ties into workshop and webinars teams. So making sure we're providing everyone with what they need. But yeah, definitely my favorite team is annual conference team. with the liaison role, I feel a little like that's my baby. So I had a hard time kind of stepping back from that. But it's really fun, and it leads way into transitioning it and growing people like you and students and getting out there. There's always that support. Yeah, that was long-winded, but there you go. Any other questions? I think that's kind of all I have. Yeah, but yes, Minnesota has a lot of great opportunities to get involved too. And their website, I think we use the same vendor, Knowledge Connects, is outlined super well in what you can get involved in. You can even submit on Minnesota, I believe, your contact information, what you're interested for someone to reach out and connect you on. Yeah. So, yeah.
Thank you, Bryanna. I'll put a plug in too for the annual meeting committee for MINHEMA, because I feel like that is the easiest way to kind of like ease into it in terms of volunteering, because you can be at these like general meetings that we have. Now they're more frequent because our annual meeting's coming up really soon, but before it was like once a month. And you can kind of just be there for these general meetings, and then they form like subcommittees in Minnesota. So you might want to help out with, say maybe the silent auction, or like she says, speaker readiness. If you want to be that point person for helping speakers to make sure they have everything they need, or working with the marketing committee on promoting the event. And so there's all these different things that you can kind of do that don't require a ton of time, but ease you into volunteering for the state association. So at least I found that was like an easy way to get involved.
Yeah, that was my same experience. It was very fun. I was tied to the silent auction back in the day, and that was very rewarding. And it had a start and an end, and then you were able to give out that money to students who needed it. So I liked that process.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Minnesota might already be doing this, but we're exploring, and we invite our up and coming new directors to like our strategic initiative planning at our annual conference in May. But we're trying to get more students and up and coming professionals to join in on like our board of director calls and different team meetings. I know we've got some people that are professors and pull in their students to just kind of sit and listen, because we need your feedback. What are the students looking for? What are the new professionals looking for? And that way it's kind of helps with, I can never think of the word for this, kind of a transition plan and growing our professionals out there and have a helping hand. So you're not just thrown into the water, have fun swimming with the sharks. So it's not like that.
Yeah, I was thinking, so I was on the board before, well, during COVID and stuff, and I feel like we were really good about that before COVID, like just having like 2 student representatives at our board meetings and things like that. Now I'm not on the board, so I'm not sure if that's continued, but they were working on that. But I like the idea of young professionals too. Maybe there could be another category to just let them kind of dip their toes in the water, like you said. So
all it takes is one toe, literally.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I don't know how else to say it.
Yeah. Any other questions for Bryanna about professional involvement or her roles that she's held?
And if you think of something later, feel free to share my contact info.
Okay. Yeah, I think if there's no other questions, we'll let you go, Bryanna. So class, we have Nellie's going to be joining us at 9:30. So if you guys can just hop back on the Zoom at 9:30, that would be great. And thank you so much, Bryanna, for your time. And I'll definitely share. Did you change your PowerPoint at all since you sent it to me?
No.
Okay. I'll share that with them then, so they have your contact info.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you so much for letting me chit chat. It's the least I can do. So good to see everyone and see new faces in the profession. We're counting on you guys. Thank you. Take care.
Thanks, Bryanna. Bye.
Thank you.
See y'all. Yeah, see y'all soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.